Good morning, church. It is 6 o'clock, Friday morning, 10 April 2020. I have also started the fire, and as you can hear and see, day is breaking. It's a beautiful day. Let's pick up the story, and this candle represents Jesus and the two sinners, you and me, next to him on the cross. So let's pick up the story after the events that happened during the night. We pick up the story in Mark 15 verse 1 to 24, and you can read the same events described in Matthew 27 verse 1 to 44, Luke 23 1 to 24, and John chapter 18 verse 28 to 40, as well as John 19 verse 1 to 16. All four Gospels describes exactly the same story with more or less the same detail. And immediately when it was morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, the chief priests with the elders and scribes and the whole council held a consultation. And when they bound Jesus, they took him away violently and handed him over to Pilate. And then Pilate inquired of him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he replied, It is as you say." And the chief priest kept accusing him of many things. And Pilate asked him, "Have you no answer to make? Say how many charges they are bringing against you." But Jesus made no further answer at all, so that Pilate wondered and marveled. Now at the feast he was accustomed to set free for them any one prisoner whom they requested. And among the rioters in the prison who had committed murder in the insurrection, there was a man named Barabbas. Verse 9, and he replied to them, "Do you wish me to set free for you the king of the Jews?" For he was aware that it was because they were prompted by envy that the chief priest had delivered him up. But the chief priest stirred up the crowd to get him to release for them Barabbas instead. And again Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with the man whom you call the king of the Jews?" And they shouted back again, "Crucify him." But Pilate said to them, "Why? What has he done? What is evil?" But they shouted with all their might, "All the more, crucify him at once." So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, set Barabbas free for them. And after having Jesus whipped, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers led him away to the courtyard inside the palace, that is the Praetorium. And they called the entire detachment of soldiers together. They dressed him in a purple robe, and weaving together a crown of thorns, they placed it on his head. And they began to salute him. "Hail, greetings, good health to you, long life to you, King of the Jews." And they struck his head with a staff made of a bamboo-like reed, and spat on him, and kept bowing their knees in homage to him. And when they had finished making sport of him, they took the purple robe of him, and put his own clothes on, and they led him out of the city to crucify him. And they forced a passerby, Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus, who was coming in from the field, to carry his cross. And they led him to Golgotha. In Latin it's called Calvary, meaning the place of a skull. And they crucified him, and divided his garments, and distributed them amongst themselves, throwing lots for them to decide who should take what. And it was the third hour, about 9 o'clock in the morning, when they crucified him. That's verse 25. Mark 15, verse 25. We'll pick up the story again. The moral of this story is that through the night, Jesus was accused by the church leaders. He was disowned by his own, rejected by his own. They all ran away, left him alone. And even Peter, his best disciple, denied him 3 times. And that's you and me, by the way. We've denied him more than just 3 times in our lives. And in the events that happened during the night, Jesus never said a word in his defense. And as you can imagine, when the court sat and they asked for witnesses against him, many false accusations came in. But there was not one defendant for Jesus. Not one. And that's typically how we are. And that is what our sins did to him. Rejected and alone. Even in that moment, God forsake him, his Father forsake him. But he had to go through this. So that at 9 o'clock in the morning, they led him out to be crucified. We'll pick up the story a little bit later again. What happened between 9 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll speak to you later again.